Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something pretty specific and, honestly, often quite daunting. Registering a charity here in Canada with the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency. And if you, our listener, have ever thought about launching a nonprofit, well, you'll want to stick around for this, because here's a number that really jumped out at us. The CRA gets about 4,000 applications a year. But, get this, in some years, our sources show over half of those. They face denial or rejection. Over 50%.
Yeah, it's a huge number.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells you something important. It's usually not about a lack of passion, It's about a lack of legal precision. Most rejections, they really boil down to misunderstandings of Canadian charity law. Things like private benefits creeping in or the stated purpose being too vague, maybe poor internal controls. So our mission today, it's strategic. We want to unpack those specific legal landmines, the procedural traps. Think of it as a preventative guide. Knowing where the problems usually pop up lets you build a stronger application from the start, one that hopefully avoids those pitfalls.
Okay, so we've structured this into roughly 3 parts. First up, the CRA's review process itself, what actually happens when your application lands on their desk. Then we'll dive into those core legal tests, charitable purpose and public benefit. These are really foundational. And finally, we'll tackle the operational side, governance, compliance issues, the stuff that seems straightforward but can actually, well, sink the ship.
Right, let's start with the process.
Okay, let's unpack it. The sources stress this isn't some black box. The CRA process, it has structure, timelines, fairness procedures built in. So what's the key document an applicant might get?
That's got to be the Administrative Fairness Letter, the AFL. And honestly, you almost want to get one. It's a critical chance to fix things. See, if the CRA spots problems, maybe your purpose isn't sharp enough, the board structure looks off, financial plans seem weak, they send this AFL. And it's specific. It doesn't just say problem, it lays out exactly which requirements you seem to be missing, explains the legal angle, and asks for more info or clarification. It's basically the CRA saying, look, here are the issues, address them, or denial is likely coming. It really is the best chance to adjust course before a flat-out no.
Okay, but this is where things get serious, right? The timing. You mentioned strict deadlines. There's a 60-day window.
Exactly. 60 days to respond to that AFL or any request for more information. And that deadline, it's absolutely firm. No wiggle room.
So what happens if you miss it? That 60-day deadline. Why is that specific timing so critical?
The outcome is pretty bad, actually. And you need to know the difference between the two main deadlines here. Miss that 60-day AFL response window. The CRA just closes your file, they mark it abandoned, and the big consequence, you lose all rights to appeal.
All rights. Wow.
Yeah, because technically there wasn't a decision to appeal, the CRA just figures you gave up. Now, if you get a formal denial, you could appeal that you've got 90 days after the denial notice. But missing the 60-day AFL response means you don't even get to the formal denial stage. So no 90-day appeal window. You have to start completely over, new application, everything.
Oof. Losing your right to fight just because a letter wasn't answered in time? That's rough. And avoidable.
Completely avoidable. Treat that AFL arrival date like a countdown clock.
Okay, so that clarifies the stakes on timing. You also mentioned the CRA won't really help you fix the application, which brings us to the burden of proof.
Precisely. It's entirely on the applicant. You have to prove you meet the charitable status requirements with solid evidence. The CRA officers, they're reviewers, not collaborators.
Yeah.
They won't help build your case. So that means you need, well, everything documented. Bulletproof purpose statements, detailed operational plans, how will the money actually be used, financial projections that are clear and show ethical handling of funds, any gaps in your evidence. That's exactly what the CRA will use as grounds for denial.
Got it. Procedural hurdles cleared. Let's shift gears now to the big legal requirements. The ones our sources say trip up most applicants, starting with defining what the organization actually intends to do.
Right, these are the core legal pillars. Your purpose has to fit squarely into one of the 4 recognized charitable purposes under Canadian law. These have evolved over centuries of case law. First, relief of poverty. Pretty clear, food banks, shelters, aid distribution. Second, advancement of education. Think research, running museums, public lectures, that sort of thing. Third, advancement of religion. This means promoting recognized religious beliefs and practices. And fourth, other purposes beneficial to the community.
Okay, that last one, other purposes. It sounds like a catch-all, but maybe the trickiest. Is that where applications often run into trouble?
Oh, absolutely. The first 3 are somewhat defined. But other purposes requires you to really demonstrate a tangible, recognized benefit to the public. And you have to avoid just being, say, a political lobby group or a private club. And crucially, there's this requirement for exclusivity.
Exclusivity.
Meaning your stated purposes must be only charitable. 100%. If you mix a charitable aim like advancing education with something non-charitable, maybe even a for-profit activity, in the same purpose statement, that's grounds for rejection. The purpose has to be specific, clear, and exclusively charitable. No blurring the
Okay,
lines.
that makes total sense. Vague mission statements or mixed ones are basically asking for trouble. Now, let's connect purpose to action, the public benefit test.
Yeah, the second major hurdle. Even if your purpose fits one of those four categories, it still has to benefit the public or, reasonably large segment of it. And the benefit needs to be real, something you can actually point to. And here's the critical part. Avoiding private benefit. If the benefit mainly flows to specific individuals or a very small restricted group, or just the organization's own members, that disqualifies it.
So, like a family foundation that mostly gives money to relatives.
Exactly. Or think of maybe a fancy social club. It might offer some free talks, but only its paying members can attend. That fails the public benefit test. The core benefit isn't truly public.
Let me try an example. Say I start a free mentoring program, clearly educational, seems charitable, but I only pick kids from my old university network. Is that a private benefit issue, even if it's free?
That's a perfect example. Yes, the benefit itself is charitable, but the beneficiary pool is artificially restricted. It's not open to the public in that area who might otherwise qualify.
Mm.
Now, you can limit geographically, say, serving just one town. That's usually fine. But within that town, anyone who meets the criteria should generally be eligible.
That clears it up nicely. Okay, moving beyond the written statements, let's talk about how the organization actually plans to run. Because bad governance or planning seems just as fatal.
Absolutely. Operational issues often signal, frankly, how serious the group is about public trust. The CRA looks very closely at governance and control issues.
What's the most common snag there? Lack of board independence is a big one. You see rejections when board members have clear conflicts of interest. Or maybe too many close personal or family relationships on the board. It blurs the line between managing the charity and potentially gaining personally. You can't just have, say, your whole immediate family running the board and making decisions that might benefit them.
Okay, but hold on. You mentioned expertise on the board. Isn't it asking a lot for volunteer directors to have deep financial or legal expertise? What does the CRA really expect there?
That's a fair point. They don't expect every single board member to be a lawyer or an accountant, but they do expect the board collectively to have or have access to sufficient skills to fulfill their duties, fiduciary duties. That means making sure someone understands budgets or that there are clear policies for getting expert advice when needed, and definitely having documented policies for things like conflict resolution and financial oversight, making sure they can be enforced.
Right, and that leads us straight into the money side of things.
Yeah.
Financial management red flags. What sinks applications here? Well, the CRA demands proof of fiscal responsibility right from the get-go. So big red flags include things like inadequate accounting systems. If you can't show a clear plan for tracking every single donation and separating out charitable expenses from, say, admin costs, that signals trouble. Missing internal controls is another huge one, like who has authority to spend money? Do large amounts need two signatures? Things like that. And poor budgeting. Wildly optimistic income forecasts or budgets that don't realistically account for overhead and admin costs. It just shows a lack of seriousness about managing public funds responsibly. Clear financial boundaries are essential.
Okay. Let's quickly touch on a few special cases organizations whose activities inherently make proving that public benefit a bit trickier.
Sure. Religious groups, for example. They often face challenges if their activities are only focused inwards, serving just their existing members. Think internal study groups or services exclusively for the congregation. To pass the public benefit test, they usually need to show activities that benefit the broader community. Outreach programs, community education, open to all, providing charitable services regardless of faith background. Another tricky category, sports, culture, or social activities. Just running recreational programs isn't automatically charitable in Canada. A soccer club, for instance. It needs to demonstrate it's advancing education or community welfare somehow. Maybe teaching sports specifically to at-risk youth. Or running educational workshops alongside the physical activity. But a competitive club just for adult members. Probably not charitable.
And what about groups working internationally? International operations sound like they have extra hoops to jump through.
They absolutely do. If you plan to send funds or conduct activities outside Canada, you must maintain direct supervision and control over those foreign operations. It's a very high bar. You can't just wire money to a partner organization overseas and hope for the best. The CRA's view is essentially that the Canadian charity must maintain direction and control as if the activities were happening here. So that means things like having legal agreements in place, clear accountability, regular reporting, the ability to audit. You need to ensure the activities abroad meet Canadian charitable law standards. And if that foreign partner goes off mission, the Canadian charity must have the power legally to step in and redirect or stop the funding.
Wow, that level of control is significant.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap up with two final crucial compliance points that often get missed early on. First, the corporate structure requirements, the actual legal documents. Your governing documents like articles of incorporation, they need to be spot on from day one. You need that exclusive charitable purpose statement we talked about.
And absolutely no clauses allowing for private benefit. Plus the critical dissolution clause.
Explain that one quickly. The dissolution clause.
It's non-negotiable. It has to state clearly that if the organization ever winds down, dissolves, shuts its doors, all remaining assets must go to other qualified dunnies. That's CRA jargon for other registered charities or similar bodies that can issue tax receipts. If your documents even hint that assets could go back to board members or to some for-profit company upon dissolution, instant denial.
Okay. And the final, perhaps most avoidable mistake, often born out of pure enthusiasm, premature operations.
Yes, this is a huge red flag to the CRA. It signals non-compliance right away. You are absolutely forbidden from acting like a registered charity before you officially are one. That means do not issue donation receipts. Do not advertise yourself as a registered charity. Do not file the T30 annual information return that's the tax form for registered charities. Don't do any of that until you have that approval letter firmly in hand. Starting operations prematurely is often seen as proof that the group doesn't respect the rules. It frequently leads to denial. Simple as that. Just wait for the official green light.
Okay, so we've mapped out the minefield. What's the strategic takeaway? If someone listening is serious about this, what's step one?
Plan, plan, plan. Strategic planning is everything. We strongly advise groups to start their pre-application planning a good 6 months at least before they even intend to submit the forms. You need that time. Time to really dig into the Income Tax Act requirements, refine those purpose statements until they're airtight, get all the detailed documentation-ready budgets, board bios, operating procedures.
And, while everyone wants to save money starting out, the sources really suggest getting specialized help here pays off, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Investing in legal counsel who specializes in charity law, particularly registration, it's often money very well spent. They know exactly what the CRA looks for in governing documents and operational plans. That professional preparation makes the application far stronger. It significantly cuts down the risk of denial, saving you immense time and potentially the cost of reapplying down the road.
Makes sense. Invest up front to avoid disaster later.
Exactly. So the key takeaway for you, the listener, really boils down to proving 3 things rigorously. Number 1, an exclusive charitable purpose. Number 2, clear public benefit. And number 3, robust governance supported by transparent financial controls.
That's an invaluable summary. And it really leaves us with a significant thought to ponder, doesn't it, for you listening? Remember, getting registered isn't the finish line. It's just the start of the compliance marathon. The CRA holds significant power over existing charities, too. They can impose pretty severe sanctions if compliance slips. We're talking financial penalties, yes, but also temporary suspension. A suspension stops the charity from issuing tax receipts, which basically cripples fundraising overnight. And in serious cases, even total revocation of charitable status. So the question to mull over is this. If the hurdles are this high just to get registered in the first place, how incredibly diligent and meticulous must your ongoing compliance efforts be to stay registered year after year?
It's a crucial point about the long game of compliance. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the complexities of CRA charity registration.
Until next time.